days that go by, and it doesn't even matter to me where I go. I just feel I need to take a ride. Got my coffee cup to go, and I'm gonna hit the road tonight. Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I go. Up the stereo in a place I didn't know till now. In a different part of town, I see new colors as the sun goes down. No, it doesn't even matter to me where I go. Just feel I need to take a ride.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Nate Manahan. This is The High Five. I'm live in Indianapolis, Indiana. And today, on Tuesday, June 9th, we are going to be talking about how do you get started in this whole payments, merchant services, point of sale industry. We have a special guest that's joining us in Colorado. We'll introduce her in just a few seconds. Danny, Brian are here. It's going to be a great morning. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get started.
The time has come, the questions are said, opinions high, discussions are led, show about nothing and everything, it's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. Yeah. The high five.
Alrighty. Welcome to a High Five. And I've got some special guests to introduce this morning. So let me start out with the person that's been here the longest, the man, the myth, the legend, who actually, I'm going to guess, probably is the dearest to your hearts. He's got a bald head. He's got a great, huge heart. And he is holding down the fort at PayProtect headquarters in Warsaw, Indiana. Mr. Brian Linke, how are you, sir?
Nate, I am really well. Holding down the fort. I'm not sure that's the proper thing, but okay. Let me tell you something. I'm more excited about our special guest today than I think any special guest that we've had since the High Five is. I'm actually almost even nervous. I'm like kind of nervous that she's on the other end here because let me tell you, I've been with the company for 10 years and I had to scratch and claw and beg to be on this show. Okay, I guess it's who you know. Just like it is just about everything in life, because Vicky Helm is she knows the right guy.
Oh, see, he's stealing it for us here and making sure that, on the right-hand side of the screen, let's start out with the lesser of the good-looking people, but both very good-looking. On the right-hand side of the screen, the man who actually, I know, is leading us all to become better golfers in our life. He's even making me think about taking up golf again in my life. He is making sure that all the children of Glenwood Springs are taken care of, but most importantly, his one and one on the way. And he celebrated a huge birthday this last Friday for one of his, Bodie Jean. How are you, Mr. Danny Shard?
I'm doing well, thank you. It was Big Bodie's birthday on Friday. Fun was had by all, and got to spend the weekend with the one here to my right as well. So it was a really good time.
Well, and to your right, let's bring her up, Vicky Helm, who is Danny Shard's mom and Bodie Jean's grandma. I don't know, what do they call you? But what does Bodie call you?
Grandma Vicky.
Grandma Vicky. Yeah. All right. So Grandma Vicky.
Good morning, PayProtect Nation.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Vicky is here joining us. What's going to be fun today is Vicky, not only is she Danny Shard's mom, and we all are so thankful that all the good parts of Danny come from her, but we are also thankful that she is now part, not just mom of PayProtect, but she's actually partner of PayProtect, and that's a lot of things we're going to be talking about. Can you tell us, Vicky, a little bit about how you, in the last, I don't even know how long it's been, but not all that long, has jumped in and started being a partner of Paprotech. Before we get started, let's just kind of set, how long have you been an official partner of Paprotech?
An official partner of Paprotech, just a year.
Yep.
Really, just a year. Just kind of doing it on the side in the beginning because I was in the oil and gas business.
Well, and then Danny's been kind of nurturing it. You have a inside knowledge. So let's start with, I kind of set up a few questions to guide us. But when you first started out, Vicki, I'm interested, what did you know about this? I mean, Danny's been involved with this almost 2 decades, so you've been hearing about it and seeing it. But how much did you know when you really dove in and started looking for merchants and starting setting up your own portfolio?
You know, I spent about 20 years in banking before I switched over to oil and gas. So I knew the banking side. I knew the flow of money, working with business owners every single day, with their just how they get receive their money in a timely manner. On the merchant side, I only knew at that point that they took credit cards and we provided them through the bank, but I didn't have any direct contact with that. I knew it was a very important part of those small businesses to have that credit card machine and have it cranking and operating. So, I mean, that was the limit of my knowledge. The rest of it has come from just being involved with him. And when Total Merchant Services was here in the Valley, you know, they were everywhere. And so hearing the talk, constantly hearing the talk from him working on, you know, dealing with customer issues from a customer service standpoint to boarding terminals and doing and troubleshooting, everything imaginable. I've heard about it from him, and sometimes going in his office to just take him lunch, and he couldn't even stop long enough to take a bite of a sandwich, barely look up and say hi, and I'm gone because he's so inundated in it. It's fast and furious. So the things that I learned coming in was just, hey, I've got a personality. I can talk to anybody on the planet. And I know that not everybody is going to be a yes. But you don't know
Amazing what
until you
happens when
ask.
the two you know.
Oh, it is. So, Danny, I'm going to ask you a question. When people are jumping in that are newbies to this industry, what are their preconceived notions that are wrong about merchant services that you were able probably to fix with your mom as she was getting involved, but that are, you know, they just, you know, don't understand. Maybe I don't know what they are. So what are they for you?
Was that to me?
Yeah, this is to Danny. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. So preconceived notions about merchant services. You know, I think with a lot of new reps and new folks to the industry, you know, like I get asked often whenever I'm out, you know, hey, what do you do? And, you know, I'm a sales director of sales for a payment processing company. And they're like, what? Right. And then I kind of tell them what I do. They're like, oh, cool. Sounds good. But so on the surface, you know, it sounds not too difficult, but I think, you know, one of the things is just how detailed and how many moving parts there are to this industry that people don't quite get until they're in it, right? Until you've written 1 deal, 5 deals, 20 deals, you know, and every single deal is different. You know, I think that's eye-opening for a lot of reps. Another thing too is that I think reps get into this business because they hear of the residual and they see the dollar signs and the potential with this without, you know, and they see, you know, salesmen or saleswomen that maybe aren't working full time and they're out and about, but they seem to be living pretty well. They don't realize all the work that goes in behind the scenes to actually get those accounts and get those merchants to sign on and for them to start processing with you. And it's not your average 9 to 5, right? It is a 24/7, 365 gig, always on, so you can be responsive to your customers. And I think that's probably one of the biggest ones for a lot of people that they don't quite understand until they're in it.
So as we continue on this, Linky, I'm interested. 10 years ago, you got involved. Matt Hoskins introduces you to PayProTech, which he had founded. You jump in, you do a variety of things, but you really start out as an independent sales agent, selling local accounts in the greater Northern Indiana area. What did you know about this industry and what surprised you? Because you had a career of very successful sales, but now you're getting into payments for the first time. What did you know about it, and what did you have to learn quickly?
It's an easy. That's an easy one. I didn't know anything. What I did know was exactly what Vicky Helm knew, and that's I knew how to talk to people. So at the time, I just went around and talked to local merchants and drove around and went in and out and in and out and in and out, and you asked the right questions, and next thing you knew, I had a portfolio and a book of business, and I was off and running. I was so good at it, they ended up moving me inside here, and so I don't do it anymore. But no, that's not really the case. But the industry itself, one thing that I found was I just think that it's a difficult industry to get into, and the only reason one of the big reasons is I just think the industry itself is tarnished. I think that's a really good word for it, and it has nothing to do because where PayProTech was when I first started and where we are today. I mean, we're two totally different companies. I mean, we're just. Obviously, Danny Shard had a lot to do with that. But this industry that we're in, it's a non-regulated industry, right? And so anybody, you don't have to pass a test. Right, you don't have to have a license. You don't have to do any of that to do it. So when you're in that kind of an industry and you're hiring 1099 sales agents, you're getting all kinds of different people. And I think when I first started in the business, there were more. I don't want to say bad people. They were bad people, and it tarnished the industry because, again, nobody wants to talk to the credit card guy, right? So then you have to, and we've talked about this on the show before, you have to build trust and all that. So and I think now PayProTech we just do a much better job of hiring the right people, the right sales agents. Nate, you've done an unbelievable job with the leads that we're getting. They're so much better now than they were before. I remember when I started doing this before you were here, and I was getting these leads, and these guys, they were all, 5 bankruptcies, 10 liens, judgments, arrest records, poor credit, and we're trying to get these guys approved, and bending over backwards. And now we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. We're kind of picking and choosing the right people. And but look at our deal count now, and look at where we've been in the last 3 years, and it's obviously paid off.
So speaking of deal count, one of the things that this industry, and really anything in sales, it's not just payments for sure, but it's about that deal. It's about, getting that first, second, 100th, 1000th customer. And so coming back to Vicky as our special guest today, Vicky, I'm interested, do you remember in the last year, who was your first deal? And then we're going to ask some follow-up questions, but who was the first business that you were able to bring merchant services to? And what do you remember about that?
Oh, yes, of course. I remember my first deal, TNT Color Services, gentleman named Tony Davis. And he does custom paint for airplanes, boats, auto dealerships, that kind of stuff. And we got him in with a E600, a Pay Anywhere E600. And it was one of the very first ones that we had put out, to my knowledge. So we didn't have a lot of information, and it was pretty much, it was a difficult install. It shouldn't have been, but it was. Now they're not. Now they're fairly simple, but we still have Tony on board, and got a phone call from him this morning to look at some issues from him. We don't make any money on Tony. We make very little, maybe like $4, $6, something like that. We don't make any money, but I remember Tony, and I will take care of Tony to my last dying breath. I will take care of that man.
I think a lot of reps can relate to that, right? Like, got to crack my first egg, if you will, and just get this first one under my belt and go through the application process, the setup process, from pitch to pricing to application to install to the ongoing support. Like that first deal, obviously you want to make money on it, but as you're looking to get into this and go full time, like at a certain point, you might have hit some roadblocks, right? I think getting started and getting that first deal is the toughest one, right? Because it's like, that first, it's just like, when you're playing golf and you're around a bunch of people, getting off the first tee is the hardest thing to do, right? I mean, you could be hitting it great on the driving range, but you just get up there and cold top it off the first tee, which I've done before.
Yes,
and that's, getting that first shot, getting that first, that first merchant under your belt's huge. So yeah, she had to price it extremely competitive. Right, she got her first one. It was a good one for her to get because she's gotten a lot more since then.
So let's go kind of around the horn and go quick on this. But Brian Linke, and then come back to you, Danny. Do you guys remember your first deals? I've asked you this before, Danny, but Brian, do you remember your first deal?
Well, let me go back to my very first deal in sales period. I was working in New York City at 5 Penn Plaza and got hired by a company by the name of Cable and Wireless Long Distance back when there was like a pricing war between Sprint, MCS.
Sprint, 10 cents a minute.
Right, exactly, right. And like I went up there and you had to have a college degree and they paid you salary plus commission. I'm like, okay. And I talked these guys into hiring me, right? And I had a suit and tie. The very first day I got down the elevator, I went next door. There was a place called Wurzel Locksmith. I walked in, I literally told the guy, I'm like, okay, this is my first day. I have no clue what I'm doing. Okay. I know I was supposed to be cheaper than the other guy. Boom, he signed on the line, which was dotted. That was my very first deal. In this business, same kind of thing. I got Hoskins hired me. I swear, like the next week, I think I went down to Tallahassee to a Florida State football game. My college roommate picked me up. He owns a golf. It was actually a driving range and a pro shop now. And we get in the car in Jacksonville and we're driving to Tallahassee. He's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm working for this credit card company. I have no idea what I'm doing. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, he goes, why don't you sign me up? I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I wanted you to say.
Sometimes it's who you know.
Well, it's you know what it is? It's don't be afraid to knock on the door. Don't be afraid to ask the question because you never know who's going to say yes.
So, Danny, I know for you, because we've talked about this before, you were first signed up as a sub-agent with not the greatest deal in the world, something we try to prevent. But do you remember who the first one you signed up was when you were first, grinding for someone else and they were making all the money?
I tried to think of the name. It was a pizza place in Durango, and really I started the conversation and brought in this guy to finish it. So it was probably more like Brian's first merchant service deal, right? Where he had the merchants and they're looking for better rates and things like that. And then had a deeper conversation with somebody that was more knowledgeable. And that's exactly what I did. So I don't necessarily think I closed the deal. I was more just the guy that started the conversation and then pushed the paperwork, got a few $100s, and it was great. And then obviously learning, what I was doing there down the road was eye-opening because I was just getting robbed by not collecting on the residual revenue. And I think my true first deal that I ever signed directly was it was a jewelry store here in Glenwood Springs.
Downtown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm trying to even think of Goldsmith. Yeah, Goldsmith. And the guy did, $10,000, $12,000 a month. I think I signed him at 20 basis points and 5 cents a transaction and gave him a free terminal. And back then it was a lot easier, right? It was terminals. There was no POS systems. There was nothing like that. So it was a little bit easier to get in because really it's selling price. That's all there was, and support. And yeah, I remember that. That was like my real first deal, getting the contract, pricing him, doing the install, the whole thing. And it was eye-opening for sure.
Well, what I did, and just real quick, what I do when I get back to the office, okay, not knowing what I was doing, I grabbed a guy by the name of Billy West, and I asked him, I said, Bill, I said, will you come with me? I'll go out there and get the guy on the hook, and will you come with me and help me close the deal? And he was stupid enough to say yes. And he didn't know what he was getting himself into at the time, because I was basically coming back to the office with a deal a day. I mean, it was a deal a day.
Oh, wow.
And but Billy West was an integral part of me being successful in this business and still being here to this day.
One of the best. I actually just got a message from one of our newer partners, Shannon, who said she's watching the High Five and our first deal is coming. We're officially getting started this coming Monday. So congrats, Shannon. That's awesome.
Yay.
A lot of partners that we have bringing on, getting their first deals here as things are starting to open up. Nate, do you remember your first deal?
Do I remember my first deal? Okay, so here's the thing. I've signed up so many deals for other people, not under my own ID. But I do remember the first one that I helped with on just trying to figure out the technicalities of it and it was it was delivery.com. I remember that, Danny. Back in the day.
Huge.
And so I got nothing out of it. And now I'm not quite as generous. 7 years later, I now do have my own ID and occasionally do sign up my own merchants and have my own things.
Sure.
But back then I did, sure, I'll just help out with everything, and didn't realize I could get a little piece of the pie at times. But I remember helping out with delivery.com. And and they've grown now to a point that they are doing, last I knew, about 100 million a month. And so they grew out of us, unfortunately, and have direct relationships with the cards. But we were able to ride a huge opportunity there. But they were like three basis points and 1 cent. I think we ended up going down, maybe even down to 1 and 1. Keith was managing the pricing on that account. And that's what I remember, because it was a huge. Sometimes you realize sometimes volume doesn't mean it's worth your time. Because
that's right.
We didn't make a huge.
Yeah.
Now it actually probably was a bulkhead in getting a lot of accounts, because we were able to use it as a testimony. But we made, when you think about as much money as they were processing, we made so little and put so much time, because they also they had all these accountants. We had. We had to do, we were line by line at transactions often, and Billy was involved. Everybody was involved in that account. That's my memory of my first account, helping out and trying to get somebody signed up, and helping the guys out there at the time, Pilot House. And it was worth it, but those are learning curves. And that's like Vicky learning, hey, we don't make a lot of money off your first account. I learned there are some really, really big accounts that are in the portfolio of Paprotech that make us probably are not profitable for us. And when you really look at the real numbers, the margins are not very high. Let's go to number.
Sell cash discount.
Yep.
And I think too, just on this subject real quick, Nate, while we're all talking about this, obviously, we're employees of Paprotech here to help our partners come on board and close business. But as all of you are talking to any one of us, the majority, probably 80% of the people in Paprotech have all closed the deal, have all sold a merchant account. And it's something that I love, and that Matt Hoskins has given us the ability to do, because what good are we at supporting partners if we've never been through it ourselves, right? If we've never been face to face with that merchant, been in your shoes and written an application and dealt with an issue and just worked through it, how are we going to better help you if we haven't experienced it? So that's something that we really try to encourage everyone to do, is get out there and try to close a deal and experience what our partners experience, so you can better help them. So.
No, that's totally true. And I was thinking it's bridging into our third topic. And Vicky, I want to come back to you. There's a learning curve, and you've talked about that in this industry and things you need to learn. What are the things that were most helpful to you in the last year to helping you get fast-tracked into learning as much as possible, whether it's systems or the right questions to ask at the right time? What are those things that helped you get around that learning curve as fast as possible? And then maybe even some of the things that you look back, you wish they had. And we'll kind of talk about that little bit of question later. But what are some of those learning curves that you've gone through, and what's helped you get through them?
Wow. Okay. So probably like to me, the idea of a POS system was completely intimidating. I couldn't even imagine um, being put in the position of having to get all of those little puzzle pieces put together and who was going to do it for me because I'm just one little person out here. And then in steps Matt Proctor and Robert Kramer. And I tell you what, they have changed my life with regard to POS systems. That fear is gone because no matter what we do, you know, or what direction the merchant decides to go, they're there to, I don't have to do it all. And that's I guess the biggest thing is it's not all on me. I can bring the opportunity and continue to massage it and move it forward, but the nuts and bolts of it, I don't have to know every single piece of that because we've got them. The other thing that's been a huge blessing to me is during this whole COVID thing, you know, we've all had time on our hands. All of us as partners and employees of PaperTech in one fashion or another, things slowed down. But what really kept me going is this high five. Every morning, like clockwork, you guys were pumping out the music and getting us motivated and keeping us motivated. And I kind of had a little conversation with Linky this morning that, you know, well, y'all were envisioning people, you know, sitting on their couches and their jammy bottoms, you know, watching reruns of Joe Exotic or whatever. You know, there were actually some of us, because of you, that were getting dressed, getting ready, and going to make something happen that day when the whole world was shutting down and our neighborhoods were quiet in the morning. Instead of seeing cars leaving for work, there was none. It was desolation. So, you know, you guys put that thought in our heads that, you know, you can be home and you can still be doing things. So it's a perfect time to pick up those phone calls, pick up the phone, make those phone calls and talking to these merchants, because the merchants at that time too, they were in a dead zone. What they had is save them and actually be open to another option. And that's what the high five did for me. And I'm betting hundreds of partners out there in the same boat. You guys gave us a purpose.
That's big.
That's huge right there. We lost it.
That's big.
That was, I mean, and that's why we do it. And it's what we're now recreating it a little bit, but we're trying to create content that hopefully inspires, encourages, challenges, and just have a little bit of fun at times too. Because doggone we've got to do that.
I got to throw one other thing in there. I remember one morning I called Danny and I said, you know what? I am going to blow your mind today. And he goes, why is that? And I said, because I am fixing to submit a deal during COVID when everybody's staying home. I'm submitting a deal. And I did. But I think during the whole COVID thing, I put 4 or 5 through during the whole thing. So, you know, you guys gave really, truly, and I hope you're seeing this with other partners too. You gave us a purpose and and the motivation to get out there. You can still make this happen. The world hasn't stopped.
Love that.
I love that.
Thanks, guys.
I love that.
Thank you.
And
I thought everybody was just tuning in to look at me.
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
That's always at least 20 to 25% of it.
I love seeing your son, you know, in the background
working out
with his shake. He had his smoothie, his shake.
I know.
So we do have one question. I'm sorry, I can't tell who the question is. I see because I get all the comments, but they don't always show me the name. I think if I'm not your friend. But it says, are Matt and Bob their own company or did they move to NAB? I want to set that up a little bit because she was talking about using the POS Pros team. So PaperTech, we always say we originated that team. That team has existed since 2015 for us. We are part of a greater holding company, and they saw the synergies that we had created a great product. So they poured some more equity into it, and now we all are able to use that team. But Danny, you could share a little bit. I mean, we are still the #1 closer of POS Pros, even though we're not the biggest user of POS Pros. Isn't that correct?
That's true. Yeah. Now, granted that they're a lot busier because they have a lot of partners that drive in a lot of lead traffic, and they're helping all of our entities, which is massive. But yeah, I mean, with the foundation that PayProTech was able to lay with starting that entire division, yeah, our partners, I think, are a little bit more seasoned going into these conversations on POS, just how our team has quite a bit more knowledge on them as well, and then engaging with that team. So we're still the lead dogs in the POS pros team world, even though all of our sister companies, co-brands, and entities get to use them. So it's spreading the love, spreading the wealth a little bit across the whole channel.
Yep. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart at PayProTech. And it isn't an infomercial at times, because we have pushed the barrier, and we're about to, we've done that with with Edge. We were the first ones in all of the entities to do anything in the cash discount world. We called it Salcha Prime. Then we've all adopted one branding called Edge. But then at the same time, we have lots of things that we're pushing the boundaries on. We're trying to make sure all of our partners have the best opportunities they can. One of the things that does, Brian, is one last question before I move off the learning curve here and kind of talk. Actually, I'm going to bridge this into this, because I think this goes into the next. But like, we're looking for, what are the things, like, we have so many things that are changing, and we're always rolling out new programs. Like right now we have different programs that are just about to roll out this Thursday, which we'll announce here. Watch for an email for those who are on our email list. If you're not, email me at nmanahanpayprotech.com. We'll get that. But we're always rolling out new things. Brian, how do you stay on top of all that? How important is it to be connected and interacting with your relationship manager, who can help you understand all the new things that are in the PayProTech world?
Okay, so that's a great question, and the answer to that is, for our agents, our partners that are out there, I mean, we have so many resources here at PayProTech. I mean, we with the mypayprotech.com and the fact that Mike Stetz, who our coach, who will again get on and train you as much or as little as you'd like. And all you have to do is send them an email and set up an appointment. And then, again, we've got Jenny Reichel and Jason Lee Cook and Pam Bailey and Jen Sales. And, each one of our partners is assigned a relationship manager. And I'm just not sure that there are a whole lot of companies out there that can say that, right? So again, the support that you're given here. I mean, obviously, there are some things that we still have to go and the girls do to NAB and lean on them for certain things. And but the support that you're given here, you can call Danny anytime. If you can ever get him on, because he's always on the phone. You can call me anytime. I'm on the phone a lot, but we'll always call you back. We'll always answer your emails. And I'm just not sure. And again, this is the only merchant services company I've ever worked for, but I'm just not sure it's like that everywhere else. I mean, so many of our partners that we're hiring are calling in and saying they're getting this split and they're getting this and that and the other thing. And the longer that I work here and the more that I listen to Danny, it's the same. I mean, within a couple of percentages, it's the same thing. And again, I think we're as aggressive, with our approval bonuses and our true up bonuses and our residual splits and a lot of these things that we're putting out there, the 14 times a $500 bonus. I mean, I just don't know if there's a whole lot of companies out there that are giving you those things with the support that you're getting here. Partners at payprotech.com. Michael Thomas. I mean, there's just so many things, and if you're not reaching out to these people, then you're just not using everything that we have.
I think those are the things that we have to stay on top of, staying in new. Vicki, have you been surprised about how things change, even in the 1 year you've been officially with PayProTech, how much things are changing and the options and the opportunities are changing all the time?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's just, while Brian was talking, I was thinking about, some of the things that I talk to prospective merchants about is about PayProTech being different And, we talk about that quite a bit. But what I say is that, Papertech is a group of young, sharp, innovative men and women.
She called you young, Bri.
I did.
I was gonna wait to let her finish.
But and I'm always saying, these guys have this can-do attitude. There is no challenge that we can put forth to them that they won't find some solution for. So throw it at me and I'll bring it to them and we'll see what we come up with. And it's true, time and time again, you guys are constantly thinking out of the box, your positive energy, and you're always, and I'm hoping that as I speak to other, partners out there, that you see the same results that I do. I don't ever have a problem reaching anybody. And I don't think it's just because I'm Dan's mom, because I don't always call Dan, and if I call somebody, I get a phone call back usually within 5-10 minutes at the most.
Yeah, but everybody knows that Vicky Helm is Danny Shard's mom. So let me tell you something. Vicky Helm calls, let me tell you, okay, people are picking up right away.
Well, you know what? I've actually said that to merchants before, Brian. I probably shouldn't say this, but I've actually said this because I had one guy who told me, man, the person that I'm dealing with right now, I got nothing but problems. I get no answers. I call the big company. I get in a loop of, press 1 for this, press 9 if you want that, and all that stuff. And he said, what would it be like working for you? And I said, let me tell you something. If you have an issue, I know the guy to go to, and he makes things happen. So I do have that. But you know what? That guy, the point is, that guy, it doesn't always have to be Dan. It could be anybody on the Papertech team, any woman, any man that works for Papertech will jump through hoops for any merchant that we have. Any question, a new solution. It's like Dan and Linky and Matt Proctor and everybody is the same person. You get the same level of service regardless of who you're talking to or who you are.
Well, another thing let me just piggyback on that. Danny and I talk, routinely in the evenings, on the weekends. I do the same thing with Matt Proctor. I do the same thing with Robert Kramer, the girls. So there's this is not a 9 to 5 job. I mean, so we'll I guarantee you, Partners at Papertech, you send an email to Partners at Papertech, you're getting an answer. I don't care what day it is, and as long as it's not like in the middle of the night, Michael will respond. So.
I encourage all partners to say that the guy, that you're related to him. My brother works for the company, my son, my dad, whatever it is. I mean, it's I'm being funny, but the truth is that telling merchants how connected you are internally to better support their account is massive, right? She told me about a merchant account that she has that signed them up with a Mint point of sale system, set them up on a huge lease over $400 a month for 48 months and disappeared. The guy is just not shown his face for obvious reasons, obviously, but
that's why the industry is tarnished.
That's exactly what I said. That's what we told the merchant. And it's, but in that scenario, of course, the merchant, although she had a good relationship with him, still had his guard up, right? It's like, this guy just burned me. He's from your industry. And just like any of us would be, if we bought a car from somebody who scammed us, we're going to be a little more hesitant and thorough on the next car we buy, right? And that's the same scenario with this. He got burned on this. He knows he needs the service, but gosh, I want to be thorough here, and I want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions. I'm not going to put myself in that position again. And so obviously making him feel comfortable and getting over that barrier is one of the most important things initially, but then, kind of driving that home with, I've got a great relationship team in-house that's going to be able to be responsive. When you come up with an issue, I'm the person you call and we deal with it together. And they've already done that, and it's built his confidence up significantly. So it's things like that telling merchants is, is a good thing to share, right? About your connections with your team internally and how we're going to be able to better support you than you've ever experienced before.
And I think it's what we strive to set ourselves apart with, because you can call any of us and we're a text message or a phone call away from starting the process of getting it fixed, versus so many other people. And I'm not going to throw names under the bus, but they're a long hold from getting it started. And it's not saying we can instantaneously fix it, but we can at least get the ball rolling faster than I believe anyone in the industry. Would you agree with that, Danny?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about today is advice to first timers. This is really for all of us, but Vicky specifically, because now I always love asking this question to people that are been in the industry just a little bit, but there are a lot to learn, still a lot of opportunities. But what advice do you wish you had, or do you give to a person that was in your shoes a year ago? What are the things that would be the most important that you would advise them?
I think the first thing I want to say is be fierce. Step out of your fear and realize that not everybody is going to be a yes, but you never know that they're going to be a yes or a no unless you speak, unless you ask. And those are the first things. One of a big challenge for me when I signed my first couple of merchants was, coming out of banking for so many years, and sales and marketing in the oil and gas business. I had parameters that I had to stick within, right? And then really delving deep into the merchant services side, it struck me as so odd that I was able to price my own merchants. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have like a sheet that's telling me this, it is so open. So you've got so much flexibility. And, that was a big learning thing for me, is how much flexibility do I have and what works and what doesn't for this merchant and that merchant. The EDGE program has pretty much taken charge of that. It's like brought it all together and simplified the pricing process. And it simplified it for the merchants too, to understand. But, be smart, learn, listen. You can talk all day long, but sometimes we just have to learn to shut our mouths and listen to what our merchants are talking to us
That's a
about.
really good point.
We have to listen. One thing that I will say is the rejections, and you're going to have rejections. And I'm almost hearing this huge sigh out there in PayProTech land, because you're just like me, you've had them and they're eye-opening. Some of the ones that I've had have just been devastating, to the point where you're like, what the heck am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? And then you get up the next morning and you're like, you know what? That is not going to get me down. I'm going to go grab another one. But, there is one that, Matt Proctor and I worked on so hard, a merchant with a bar, grill, great area. I've been to their home. I go to church with them, the whole thing. And she says, okay, during this COVID thing, I'm just going to hang on to this for a little bit. Give me a couple of weeks. So about 10 days go by. I call her up and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, but I went with somebody else. You did what? You did what? So, it hurt and it was stunning. And I actually came back to her on advice from the PayProTech team to say, you've signed this contract with this other person, but it's not too late. And we actually offered, just an incredible deal for her, and she still turned it down. And that was someone that was a friend. And then I realized, I don't need friends in my life that do that. So be leery, but don't be afraid. And you never get anything unless you let the fear go and let go of those rejections, and just keep moving forward. That's one thing I learned in my sales business years and years and years ago was, you envision a train on the track and it's coming into the station, and you never look at the people that are getting off at the station. You're only looking at the people boarding that train.
Mm-hmm.
So keep looking at the people boarding the train, folks.
I like that. I mean, embracing rejection is probably one of the things that salespeople need to do the most, right? And in that scenario, she had actually 2 of those that happened. And these were, like she had said, people she had great relationships with, had been in their homes, knew their family, went to church together. And that merchant she just spoke of that, I went with somebody else. It was a little bit deeper than that. The merchant, she felt terrible, but she said, they called me out of nowhere and they caught me on a bad day. Mm-hmm. I was having an issue with my system at the time. I was, upset about my rates and things like that. And I just said, you know what, let's do it. So it was just catching them on a bad day. And that was eye-opening for her, right? They had done demos with the POS Pros team, analysis, the whole thing. They said, okay, just give me a couple weeks while we get through this, and then we're going to pull the trigger. So she did, I think, what any of us would do, which is just, okay, I'm going to take a step back for a little bit. I've got this thing closed. I'm just going to wait until they're ready. She went ahead and followed up a couple weeks later, 10 days later, and the deal had already been lost because she missed them. So that's like, what do you do as a sales partner, right? Do you, even though the merchant said, hey, give me a couple weeks, do you still follow up every day? Do you still follow up every 2 days, 3 days? And I thought that scenario was extremely unique and that you're not going to experience that a lot. But what it does is she's learned a lot from it too, right? And I think a lot of us can learn a lot from situations like that, where, you think it's a done deal. And it's not done till, like Brian said earlier, until that name is on the dotted line, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to follow up. You got to do these things, and any opportunity can be missed just on a fluke.
I'm going to throw something else out there, because the company that she went with totally blew me away, caught me off guard. How familiar are y'all with Benny Keith, the restaurant supplier company?
Not.
You're not familiar with Ben E. Keith?
No.
Okay.
I only am on the restaurant side. They're a regional restaurant supplier company, similar to Gordon Food Services, or whatchamacallit that owns Cake. I can't think of the name right now, but yes, I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, they supply food, napkins, cups. They're a restaurant supplier all over the world, or in the U.S. I'll take it. But they also provide POS systems. And because they already do business with Benny Keith, they're like, bring it. Let's do this. So Benny Keith, a restaurant supplier, provided them with their new POS system.
Well, and that shows that there's opportunity in those things, and that's probably a good topic for another day, about how to have those shared relationships with those vendors and what happens.
Exactly.
Our competitors that don't work in the residual world, like the Toasts and the Squares, all have relationships. I don't know, but Square is with Gordon Food Services, or not Squares. Toast is with Gordon Food Services. There are several that have referral partnerships like that. I don't know which one this particular partnership, but we have to be aware of that. And the selling point is they only have usually 1, 2, or 3 options, and we have multiple options. Literally 10 to 12 that we fully are engaged with, and hundreds that we are able to connect with. And so there's lots of opportunities, but that's interesting to learn, because it's a learning curve, Vicki, to learn all that. And you had to learn that the hard way, unfortunately, on some of that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it still hurts.
Yep.
That one still hurts.
Yep. Oh man, lost. I'm as competitive as any of them, and I hate losing at any point. And but you got to learn from it and figure out how to be aware. And the fact is, we're not going to win them all. All right, as we finish up our high five with our special guest, Vicki Helm, we're going to come back. We're live every morning, sometimes between 10 and 11, but just, go to Facebook, go to YouTube, and make sure you're getting alerts, so you get the little alert on your phone when we're live, so you can watch live. There have been a lot of you watching live, some of you commenting. We are here anytime. But of course, you can always watch it on demand. If you follow our Instagram account, we often about one segment a day we push over there. We often share another segment over on LinkedIn and a segment over at Facebook, so you can watch it in smaller little bite-sized portions. We would love for you to engage with us. Thanks so much. As we get finished up and we bring up a little music here, as we get just kind of getting our groove for a Tuesday on. We're in the middle of June. So, Mr. Brian Linke, what say you to our partners, our Papertech Nation, as we say the high five? Let's get going. What do you say?
Just to piggyback on the last thing, just real quick. I mean, one of the things I think that any salesperson needs to learn, and I'm terrible at it. I mean, I'm just terrible. You can't take things personally. I mean, you just can't do it. And if you do, it's going to set you back. And it's going to ruin your day. It's going to ruin your week. It's going to ruin your month. I mean, and it's it's something that I'm not sure you can learn. I think it's just something that you just have to do. And it's not an easy thing. And I get my feelings hurt just as much as the other guy. At this point in my career, and it's still to this day. But to not take things personally, I think is if you can get past that, I think you'll do really well in just about anything you sell.
All right, and over to Vicky and Danny. Vicky and Danny, do you guys have any closing words for our Papertech family this morning?
I think that was some of the best advice, Brian. You got to have thick skin. You can't take things personal, and that's what this business is about. But I've really enjoyed having my mom on the 5 this morning.
Aww. I
think she, as my mother, but also as a partner, she's out there getting it every day, and she's talking to everybody at Papertech. So it's cool to have a partner on here, but even cooler that it's my mom. So
Yeah, he's gonna show you something.
She's going to the School of Hoskins right here. This is a piece of paper with her business card wrapped around it, and this is her prospecting. This is her getting out and signing merchants. Something that Nate and Hoskins put together a long time ago that some partners still do today, and it works.
She's listening.
Yes.
You know what? I went out and bought orange rubber bands.
I
Amazon.
love
I
it.
love it.
Amazon is orange rubber bands.
I love that.
So, I have so enjoyed being with you guys this morning and Papertech Nation. And my last words of advice, and it's as much advice to myself too, is be bold, be fierce, and be smart. Learn.
Oh,
Have a great day.
I can't do any better than that on that. So on that, as we close it out today, we'll finish it up with a little high five song. Just loop in here. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. We're so glad you're here. High five, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'll have Mr. Paul Kent with me. We'll see you guys then. The high five.